Hi folks, it's Tom Garrity here at psychsafety.com again, and today we are talking about scaling psychological safety at scale, at organizational scale. And of course this sounds intimidating, right? But there are ways to do it. There are ways to get or to move along that journey and get closer to that utopian state. So we should first address the definition of psychological safety. The definition of psychological safety is a belief that the team or the group is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. Now, an organization of hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people cannot really be considered one group. It's many groups all mixed and tangled up together. And so it's unrealistic to think that we may be able to foster a blanket level of psychological safety across an entire organization. That's not what we're talking about here. What we can do is foster greater psychological safety in the groups that people work in the working groups, in the teams, and the communities that they're in, and that's a lot of what we're talking about, and a lot of what the work that we do. What we also need to be conscious of is that when people from two teams come together to hand off, to plan work, to deliver and collaborate on something, that's a group. It doesn't really matter whether they're sort of defined as two teams. That's a group of people who to higher or lower degrees feel psychologically safe with each other or not. Now, there are ways to increase and improve the behaviors, or at least conduct the behaviors that foster greater psychological safety in those groups where two teams or more than two teams and more than two groups of people come together. Now, this extends to things like team APIs and team charters and team agreements that can be shared across multiple teams, and this helps establish, especially team APIs. We'll get into those practices in another video, in another article. They help establish common ways of working, common languages, and common sort of interfaces and agreements and expectations between those teams, between those groups of people when they come together. This helps foster much greater psychological safety when those groups of people come together. It's also important to recognize that it is possible for an organization to help foster a greater fabric, like an underlying fabric of psychological safety across an organization, through messaging, through support networks, and through structures. So we can change the structure, the hierarchy, the way the organization is designed to help foster greater psychological safety through reducing things like power gradients, or at least perceived power gradients, and by the messaging, we sometimes say that the culture is the shadow of the CEO. If the people leading the organization are sending supportive and psychologically safe messages and espousing positive humanistic values, that's going to lend itself to greater psychological safety, even when groups of people who don't necessarily know each other very well come together. But fundamentally, team agreements and team charters and team APIs are a very effective way of fostering greater psychological safety when multiple groups of people come together and form one larger group, or even small groups. So that's important to address. While psychological safety is about a team phenomenon or group phenomenon, when multiple groups of people come together, that's still a group. Psychological safety still applies. It would be absurd to suggest otherwise. And there are also other ways that we can think about scaling psychological safety as an endeavor within an organization. There are four key approaches that we like to talk about. One is what we call the shining star, right? And this is where we take one group or one team and we work with that team to establish fantastic practices, team charters, team agreements, hybrid, and we create and we help them foster fantastic psychological safety and performance, and act as this shining star, this beacon of hope within the organization, and they represent the way it could be to the other teams, and other leaders and other teams look at that team and go, wow, what are they doing? Let's do what they're doing. Let's find out. Let's talk to them and do some more of that. that's a really fantastic approach, and it works really well. It's been proven time and time again to work very, very well indeed. There's another way. Well, there's another thing called which is more of a community, more of a horizontal practice. We might be introducing here a community of excellence, a community of practice, a community of interest, and this is where it's a sort of broad community of folks across the organisation, spanning multiple teams, functions, or even geographies, who share a common enthusiasm, an understanding, and a desire to improve psychological safety in the organisation. What this is really powerful at is establishing those bridges across teams and departments, and breaking down to some degree silos within the organisation. And so this is a really powerful way to do it, because this is also communities of practice tend to be very grassroots, ground up, rather than top down endeavors, and so this is very much owned by the people doing it. There's another way we like to call the Rebel Alliance, and this is it's similar to the shining star, the shining exemplar sort of approach, but this is more where there is no explicit permission or mandate from leaders in the organization to do anything like this. And this is where a team or a unit or a community even can begin to adopt some practices and start doing some of the stuff that we talk about at Psych Safety in our workshops, to foster greater psychological safety and performance, even though there is no actual mandate to do so from authority. Now, what we're hoping here is that the results are so good that leadership go, they're doing great. Okay, we need to do that because this is clearly good for the organization, even though we didn't give them explicit permission to start doing some of this stuff. So this is inspired, by the way, by Gene Kim's The Unicorn Project book, which is fantastic read, particularly if you're in tech. Now, finally, there's the transformation program, which is kind of the official broad program of work, very, very well defined, with deliverables and planned ahead, and very much sort of planned as a transformation approach. And this is going to look different in all sorts of different organizations. And we have our framework for doing this, which is our build, sort of study, measure, build, maintain, act, reflect, understand framework, and we talk about that in different things. But essentially, this is the formal, pre-planned, or at least planned as much as you can plan a transformation. You still have to adapt and respond to what's going on. This is the most heavyweight approach, but it's the most, in a way, it's the most likely to succeed at a very large scale if done well and if carried out with the full buy-in and support of senior leadership, and that's crucial. Of course, all of these can be carried out together. They're not mutually exclusive. You can carry out all of these approaches to scaling psychological safety at once, or take a bit of a mix and adapt them and mix them all together. But fundamentally, it is possible to carry out to improve psychological safety at scale across an entire organization, and that organization may span multiple countries, multiple continents, even multiple time zones. It is possible to do. It takes great work and effort and lots of different practices, and very much a cross-cultural, contextual approach to making sure that we're fostering psychological safety in the way that suits people on the ground, and not just sort of doing some sort of blanket one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter approach to psychological safety, which is definitely not something that we recommend. And so if you'd like to find out more about scaling psychological safety at scale, at organizational scale, at fabric scale, head over to psychsafety.com, drop me an email at tom@psychsafety.com to find out more. And as always, like, share, subscribe, do all that fantastic stuff, and I'll see you in the community at some of our meetups soon. Thanks so much.